I'm an idol to some. I'm a brainless idiot. I'm your daddy. I'm a psychopath. I'm unstable. I'm a curmudgeon's curmudgeon. I'm an animal. I'm a tyrant. I'm a physical peon. I'm a man. I'm incompetent with women. I'm one of the great Casanovas of all time. I'm a hypocrite. I'm a coward. I'm a nut job.
Welcome to Termini Crashes Out, an NBA podcast with Justin Termini, brought to you by DCLA. And now it's time for Termini to crash out.
All right, it's time for Termini to crash out, and I was begging. I think we were all begging for the postseason to start, right? But after what we saw last night, I got to be honest with you. I'm not sure that my heart can take 2.5 months of this. It's going to be a lot of stress if we get games like we had yesterday evening, and it wasn't just one. I mean, that Blazers-Suns game was really good yesterday evening, but that Hornets-Heat game might have been an instant classic. It might have been the best game all year. I mean, you think of a couple of different times where we've sat there, we said, this is the best game we've seen all season. I know it happened on opening night with the double overtime game with OKC and Houston. It happened again a couple of weeks ago with San Antonio and Denver, where Denver was able to eke it out in the Wembanyama against Jokic battle towards the tail end of the regular season. But on day one of the postseason, I don't want to say playoffs because the playoffs doesn't start till this weekend, but day one of the postseason, we arguably got the best game of the entire year. Now, maybe not the best game of the entire year in regards to execution and high-level play, but in regards to drama, and that's all I want to see. I want to see close games. I want to see things hanging in the balance. I want to see the big shots, but I also want to see the stupid plays, right? Where guys come up short and guys make mistakes. And we certainly saw some of that last night. So that was a great doubleheader to kick us off. And LaMelo Ball, I will tell you this. LaMelo Ball is lucky that he hit that game-winning shot and that Charlotte won. Because if they had not won, if he had not hit that game-winning shot, then I believe the lead story today is not even necessarily the foul, and we'll spend some time getting into that where he pulls down Bam Adebayo, which just to get that cleared away right off the bat was a dirty play. We'll break it down whether or not he should be suspended moving forward. According to Chris Haynes, one of my colleagues over at SiriusXM NBA Radio, the NBA is going to investigate that. They will have a decision prior to Friday where Charlotte plays against either Philadelphia or Orlando. So technically he could be suspended for a do-or-die essential Game 7. That's essentially what it is to see who goes to the postseason. But on top of that, on top of the stupid play there, because, again, not only did that cost Miami Bam, it could have cost Charlotte LaMelo Ball, because if they saw that happen in real time, then he's potentially suspended or he's potentially thrown out of that game. And if he's thrown out of that game, it could have cost Charlotte the opportunity to advance. It did, in fact, cost Miami the opportunity to advance because you have to assume that in a tight game like that, minus their best player, the Heat probably go on to win. So it's hard to really kill the Heat for losing last night. In fact, maybe you credit them for going on the road without their best player and pushing Charlotte into overtime. But LaMelo, that aside, the dirty foul aside, that was one of the more grotesque performances I have ever seen. Big game, regular season game, preseason game, going to watch my nephew play, pee-wee hoops at the age of 10, 11. He shot a absolutely abysmal 2 of 16 from 3. I mean, that's some John Stark circa 1994 Game 7 type of stuff. 2 of 16 from 3. You think at some point you say, when you're 2 of 15, maybe we don't take the 16th three. 2 of 16 from 3, 12 of 31 from the floor. He let Davion Mitchell outplay him. I mean, let's be honest, the better of the two players last night at the point guard position was Davion Mitchell. And then a couple of different occasions, even Stan Van Gundy pointed it out, where Mitchell blows by him because on one of the few shots that LaMelo did hit, he's prematurely celebrating. And he's not getting into a defensive stance. Then he turns the ball over with 12 seconds left, up 2 in overtime, and compounds the mistake by then fouling Tyler Hero as he shoots a 3, which, if he doesn't hit the game-winning shot, LaMelo, ends up being the game-deciding play, allowing Miami to take the 1-point lead with just over 8 seconds left. So he is lucky that he got the game winner. He is lucky that Charlotte ends up winning, because if not, that goes down as one of the more historically poor games I've ever seen anybody play. And that's one of the reasons, and Eddie and I, on our normal show, 4 to 7 Eastern time on Sirius XM NBA Radio, held the discussion a couple of days ago. That's one of the reasons why, if you're lining up guys for the future on that Charlotte team, meaning LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Con Knippel, I'm taking LaMelo third in that group. And I know Knippel was not great last night either. 2 of 12, 0 of 6 from 3. But he, to me, is an intelligent player. He, to me, does the right thing. You know, maybe just a little nerves yesterday. He's a rookie. Shot wasn't falling. But at least he makes the right play. Brandon Miller makes the right play. LaMelo Ball, you cannot, under any circumstances, be 2 of 16 from 3 and continue to shoot away. On top of the fact you had a million defensive lapses, you make that late turnover, you commit that stupid foul. The idea that Charlotte was able to win with him playing like that and Knippel playing the way he did, certainly, I guess, is impressive. But it's why I would say, out of those 3 guys, those 3 young guys, those 3 cornerstones, I take Brandon Miller first, Knippel second, and LaMelo third. Was not a serious game for him last night. And while I can't blame Miami for losing, because 1, they're on the road, 2, they're just not very good, and 3, they're without their best player, it's not like they executed either. I mean, they're supposed to be the veteran team. They're supposed to have the best head coach in the sport in Eric Spoelstra. There was some head-scratching stuff from Miami down the stretch of that game. One is Andrew Wiggins, you know, a guy that was the second best player, and they pointed this out in the broadcast last night, was the second best player in a team that won the championship in 2022 in Golden State. And I understand he's still not that same player. In fact, he never was that player prior to that run, and he hasn't been that same player since. But he hit a bunch of big shots down the stretch of the third quarter, or the fourth quarter, I should say, a couple of huge threes. And he was great last night. For some reason, in overtime, he doesn't take one shot. They go away from him. That was head-scratching. Then, with the game tied at the end of regulation, after the Kobe White 3, there's 10 seconds left. They take a timeout. They have the opportunity to draw something up. Grant Williams is the center. Grant Williams is the center for Charlotte. And instead of attacking the paint, taking advantage of the fact there's no rim protector, Tyler Hero pulls up from 26, 27, 28 feet out. That was a horrific last shot drawn up by Spoelstra or executed by Tyler Hero. And then on the final LaMelo shot as well, defensive breakdown there. I mean, as we mentioned, LaMelo is 2 of 16 from 3. Can't hit an outside shot to save his life. And Jaime Jaquez is up in his grill like, hey, we can't give this guy an open shot. What does that allow LaMelo to do? It allows LaMelo to drive right by him and get a relatively easy finish at the rim. I would have taken my chances all day long with LaMelo taking a 24-footer. Again, he was 2 for 16 at that point. But Jaquez lets him blow right by him to get the game-winning bucket. So again, it's hard to blame Miami for losing without Bam, and credit to them for keeping it close without Adebayo out there, their best player. But a couple of head-scratching things. Ignoring Wiggins down the stretch where he doesn't take one shot in overtime after he's dominant towards the tail end of the fourth. That hero shot on the final play of regulation, and then the defense from Jaquez getting up in his grill. So, I mean, that was a messy game, but I don't necessarily care about the execution. In fact, when you make mistakes like Miami did down the stretch, when you make mistakes like LaMelo did, it gives us more stuff to do on the shows because you can break all that stuff down. So Charlotte gets the win. Wasn't a convincing one. Certainly leaves you for concerns moving forward when they take on either Philadelphia or Orlando, or get to the first round against Detroit, who at least has the experience of last year in that first round against the Knicks. And then one guy I do want to celebrate, and then we'll go. So we'll do this. We did LaMelo. We did some of the Heat execution mistakes down the stretch. I want to celebrate Kobe White. I want to get into Con Knippel's benching, and then we'll finish off there with the dirty foul from LaMelo Ball. But how about Kobe White last night? Just when it seemed like the game was starting to get away from Charlotte a little bit, tail end of the third quarter, it's not Miles Bridges, it's not Con, it's not Brandon Miller, it's not LaMelo, it's not a part of the core. It's Kobe White, 11 straight points at one point towards the tail end of the third quarter. Then he hits the biggest shot of their season, because Charlotte is, if Kobe White doesn't hit that shot at the end of regulation, that three, which was a tremendous play drawn up by Charles Lee, because it didn't give Miami an opportunity to foul in that spot, because he caught the ball off the inbounds. One fell swoop, he goes up with the shot. If he had taken a dribble, if he had paused for a second, Miami could have fouled him and played the foul shooting game down the stretch. So that was a fantastic play drawn up by Charles Lee. It was fantastic execution by Kobe White to knock down the shot and get it up really quickly. But they don't win that game without Kobe White. He was fantastic. And that's just another example of Chicago making a bad deal. They did the same thing with Ayo Dosunmu. Dosunmu has gone up to Minnesota. He's been great. Kobe White's great here. They don't make that deal at the deadline. Give the Charlotte front office credit. They don't win. They go into the offseason with a bad taste in their mouth after a brilliant close to the last couple of months. And now they live to see another day. And honestly, I think I would favor them against the winner of Philadelphia and Orlando, because Orlando is an absolute disaster in that locker room, and Philadelphia without Embiid, I'm not sure has enough horses. And now at least Charlotte has got maybe a little bit comfortable playing in a big game, something they haven't really done much of as a group. No playoff experience, as we mentioned, with any of their starting five. Diabate, Con Knippel, obviously as a rookie, LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges. Those guys haven't played one single postseason game. Now they got this under their belt. They'll feel a little bit more comfortable going on the road to Philadelphia or Orlando. But Con Knippel, and that's one of the reasons the benching is a little confusing, is you just hope that it doesn't take away from his confidence, because you will ultimately need him in the next game, and you'll definitely need him in the postseason if you advance to face Detroit in the first round. And again, he was absolutely miserable last night. 6 points, 2 of 12 from the floor, 0 of 6 from three, 34 minutes. I think he had the worst plus minus on the entire team, got benched down the stretch of the fourth quarter, and then the entire overtime, which I didn't necessarily have an issue with. But what I will say is I was confused by him not being in there when they needed a couple of threes down the stretch. They're down by 3-4 closing minutes of regulation, and then in overtime, you need a three, and you got Grant Williams hucking one up from the left-hand side. Grant Williams out there taking threes, which was confusing. Even when Kobe White hit that three, not only was Knippel not out there, neither was Brandon Miller, who had 4 up to that point in the game. So that was confusing with Charles Lee. Charles Lee's probably taking a little criticism if they don't tie it up there. Even if he's not the guy you're going to draw the play up for because he's struggling, he's 0 of 6 from 3, at least you have Knippel out there, at least you have Brandon Miller out there to draw the defense, because you can't leave him open. I mean, Knippel's not playing. Granted, he's cold. The guy hit 273 threes this year. He hit the most in the NBA, shot it at a 43% clip. He was the best high-volume three-point shooter in the sport, bar none. He was even better than Steph Curry. And you got Grant Williams out there taking huge threes. So that was a little bit confusing. And, the issue that I'm interested to see play out is how this impacts the awards. Because we've yet to receive our ballots. Every other year, we get the ballots immediately after the regular season. You have to submit them prior to the play-in, or prior to the play-in when we didn't have the play-in. It was prior to the playoffs, because the NBA doesn't want you, and rightfully so, letting the postseason skew how you vote. But I think it's going to be hard for a lot of voters to watch that last night, especially in a race that was very tight between Con Knippel and Cooper Flagg, and not allow that to impact their vote. I mean, how could you not? You watch that, you say, Con Knippel, biggest game of the year, is benched down the stretch. Would Cooper Flagg, under any circumstances, be benched in that spot? And the answer to that is probably no. So you see that if you were on the fence didn't know where to go. You see the way that Knipple was benched there and how bad he was in the biggest game of the year. I wouldn't blame you for allowing that to seep into your decision making. And it's not the only one. Jaime Jaquez is up for Sixth Man of the Year. He was brutal last night. You go to the other game, which we'll get to in a second. If you were borderline on Denny Avdia being on an All-NBA team, well, now you're going to put him on an All-NBA team. If you were borderline on Jordan Ott, as I am, in regards to Coach of the Year, and I'm not saying first place vote, because I would go Mazzulla 1, probably Bickerstaff 2, but he's in there with like Mitch Johnson, a couple of other guys for that third slot. And then you see him blow a late lead last night, which has become a trend for Phoenix here as of late. And then maybe we don't even get our ballot by Friday, and he gets eliminated and doesn't qualify for the postseason. All of a sudden, it gets a lot harder to vote for Jordan Ott in your top 3 for Coach of the Year. So a lot of stuff at play there, both within the game and bigger picture in regards to how we're going to cast votes for Coach of the Year, for Rookie of the Year, for all NBA stuff. Now, real quick, and, unfortunately, this is probably going to overshadow, which was a classic game. And I feel like a majority of the calls today on the show that I do with Eddie from 4 to 7 Eastern time on Sirius XM NBA radio are going to be about the dirty foul from LaMelo Ball. And it was a dirty foul from Ball. And the Heat have the right to be upset about it because they lost their best player after just 11 minutes when LaMelo grabs his ankle, causing him to fall even harder than he was going to fall, because he was going to fall. So clearly that helped Charlotte win. And even though Spoelstra didn't use it as an excuse, he could have used it as an excuse. And the Heat fan has the right to use that as an excuse. Spoelstra did come out and say he didn't think it was cute. He didn't think it was funny. He was upset about it, said he should have been ejected. I agree 100% across the board with Eric Spoelstra on that front. It was dirty. He should have been ejected. The refs didn't see it. And again, I can't blame the refs. I didn't see it. I don't think many people did live, only after you went back and look at the replays. So that's where I have sympathy for Spoelstra and the Heat. Here's where I don't, and I know that this was causing a little bit of controversy on Twitter, at Termini Radio, at TERMINE Radio, where I tweeted this. While it was dirty, while he should have been kicked out of the game, I don't have sympathy for the Heat organization because the Heat organization housed Dwayne Wade, and they called Dwayne Wade, even though it's LeBron James, the best player in franchise history, they called Dwayne Wade their best player. They have the statue of Dwayne Wade outside of their arena. And Dwayne Wade is one of the dirtiest players in NBA history, and certainly one of the dirtiest players of the last 25 years. And Dwayne Wade helped the Heat win a playoff series by injuring Rajon Rondo when he broke his arm back in 2011, which I believe was game 2. And, the next year, Boston pushed in 2012, a year older, they pushed the Heat to 7 games. So they had a viable chance of maybe winning that series in 2011. Wade takes out, with a very dirty play, takes out Rondo. And again, there was more at stake there. That's the second round between 2 championship contenders in 2011. This is just a game between 2 teams that were the 9th, 10th seeds. No shot at the championship. Best case scenario, making the postseason, getting absolutely obliterated by Detroit in the first round. So I don't have sympathy for an organization that condoned the behavior of Dwayne Wade for the last, 20 years. And think about it, like the Wade thing with him, like somebody argue against me, please, that Wade's not dirty. I don't understand it. Here is a guy off the top of my head. This doesn't even require digging back into the archives and typing into Google, like, what are some of the dirtiest plays in Dwayne Wade's career? You don't even need to do that. You could rattle them off the top of your head. I just gave you the Rondo one there in 2011. Everybody knows he broke Kobe's nose. That was in an all-star game, for crying out loud. He clotheslined in another postseason game. He clotheslined Darren Collison of the Indiana Pacers. He kicked Ramon Sessions in the groin against the very same Charlotte Hornets that we saw last night. And then after that, when people started to say, and like, again, LaMelo doesn't have the history. I understand there was a play apparently where he tripped Bam earlier this year that went under the radar. That's one other play. That's not 4 or 5 throughout the course of his career. Dwayne Wade had a history, was suspended because of the kick to Ramon Sessions, and then the Heat flipped out defending Wade, releasing a statement, which I dug up here earlier today, which read in part, while we accept the decision of the NBA regarding Dwayne Wade, we do not agree with it. In his 10 years in the league, Dwayne has never been suspended and has been an exemplary player and positive influence to his teammates and fans, and we have been honored to have a part of the Miami Heat family. Unfortunately, he is the type of player, along with other players on our roster, that defenses take privileges with. We stand with Dwayne and support him in this situation and have made our feelings known to the league office. So you can't be the Miami Heat, and you can't be Eric Spoelstra, who was the head coach at the time that Dwayne Wade was committing all those dirty acts, and then come out and act appalled with the behavior of LaMelo Ball and say he should be suspended. You benefited it from with Wade, and now you're upset that another player has done something similarly dirty to Dwayne Wade. So that's my only issue there. Now, in regards, does LaMelo get suspended? The league is going to investigate. There are certainly plenty of people saying he should be suspended. I wouldn't flip out if he were. I would understand it. But I don't think the NBA is going to do it. It's not good for the sport. It's essentially a Game 7. He doesn't have a long history of dirty behavior. We saw Joel Embiid, if you recall, very similar play a couple of years ago where he yanked at the leg of Mitchell Robinson. It cost Mitchell Robinson to have to leave that game and deal with injury moving forward. Nothing was done in retrospect to Joel Embiid. He was not even thrown out of the game. And I think that was a very similar play to Embiid on Mitchell Robinson. So that's where I sit on what is probably, unfortunately, going to overshadow 2 awesome finishes last night. So that was finish number 1, and that's going to be the lead on the show here later today with Eddie, 4 to 7 Eastern time on Sirius XM NBA Radio. But one great finish was apparently not enough because we got a second one. And this is how I would view this. Denny Avdia, right? Devin Booker is the All-NBA guy in the past. Devin Booker is the Olympic guy, starts, for the Olympics, win a gold medal. Devin Booker is the name. Denny Avdia is the player. The best player on that floor last night by far. In fact, I would say of the 2 games, it's not even questionable who the best player on the floor was. It was Denny Avdia. 41 points, 7 rebounds, 12 assists, 15 of 22 from the field. Got to the line as he always does it better than any guard outside of SGA. 8 of 13, game-winning 3-point play down the stretch where he drives by a defensive-minded Jordan Goodwin, gets the and one, gives you the 2, turns a 1-point deficit into a 2-point lead. Denny Avdia was absolutely fantastic last night. And again, we were talking about the bad trade with Kobe White that ends up going to help Charlotte go on to win last night. How about Washington? And the funny thing there is Denny Avdia is 25 years of age. Washington deals him away because they say he doesn't fit their timeline. Then they trade for Anthony Davis in his 30s. They trade for Trae Young, who's 30, to build around those 2 guys, to give those guys massive contracts. Yet they trade Denny Avdia away, who is 5, 6, 7 years younger. And not only that, he's better than Anthony Davis at this point in Davis's career. He's better than Trae Young. If you were to line up all 3 of those guys and say, who do you want to start building a team around? Is it Denny Avdia? Is it Trae Young? Or is it Anthony Davis? To me, any intelligent GM is selecting Denny Avdia. And yet Washington trades him away because he's too old. Yet he's 25. Denny Avdia, I am sorry. Denny Avdia is the type of player you can build a franchise around. Portland's got a stud, and he's not the only stud that they have, but he certainly is 1A as of right now. He was fantastic down the stretch, and really the difference was how good he was compared to what Devin Booker looked like. I mean, Booker down the stretch in the 4th quarter had 3 points on 0 of 3 from the field, 3 of 4 from the line, and They end up losing. He was a minus 11. Devin Booker can't do that on his home floor as a big-time player. And I understand that Kumara was amazing on him down the stretch defensively. Drew Holiday, really Portland as a whole, has been awesome defensively for a couple of months now. But Devin Booker's got to be better than that. Phoenix has to be better than that. They're up on their home floor as the higher seed. They're up by 11 with 7:13 left. They got outscored the rest of the way, 27-12. Then they're up by 8 with less than 3.5 minutes left. They get outscored 17-5 on their home floor with Devin Booker on the floor, who's supposed to be the best player in this one-off game. But Phoenix goes 1 of 4 from the field, 3 of 5 from the line during that 17-5 stretch, whereas Portland goes perfect 5 of 5 from the floor, 2 of 2 from 3, 5 of 5 from the line. And Brooks, Booker, and Jalen Green combined for just 3 points during that 17-5 collapse. Jeremy Grant's got 8. He comes back from injury after not playing for a while, outplays those guys down the stretch. And Avdia, like we said, was near perfection. Again, I understand that Portland's defense is smothering, and Toumani Camara did a great job on Booker. But Booker in the fourth quarter got outscored by Avdia 14-3. 14-3. And that doesn't even account for the playmaking that Avdia brought to the table, where he was fantastic. And you hate to see the way that this is unfolding for Phoenix because they had an absolutely amazing season. I thought they would be a bottom 5, bottom 6 team in the league. They end up being the 7th seed. If they didn't have the injuries down the stretch to Dillon Brooks at the beginning of the season with Jalen Green, they most likely are a top 6 seed. And now I would say that, they might not even be favored against the winners of the Clippers and Warriors, because you go into that game, as good as Devin Booker is, he's not going to be going into that game better than Steph Curry. He's not going to be in that game better than Kawhi Leonard. Both those guys will be viewed as the best player in that game. So we'll see if they can save their season here coming up on Friday night. All right, so that's a quick recap. I know we're waiting about, 12 hours after both games concluded. I will try, especially after great nights, to stay up late, do some post-game shows. You guys can comment if that's something you'd prefer to see or you want to do it the next day. Again, comments on Twitter, @Termini Radio, @TERMINE Radio. You can also comment on YouTube as you like and subscribe there. It's been a lot easier for me to communicate to some of your comments on YouTube than it has been on Twitter, where sometimes I get inundated with a lot of different comments from people that aren't even following me because you tweet something, people don't like it, and they're hurling insults at you. So I think it's better to communicate over there on YouTube. Plus, we're trying to build the community over there. So find us there at youtube.com. So it's youtube.com/@ Termini Radio, @TERMINE Radio, where you're most likely watching this. We appreciate Deepak and DCLA for sponsoring the show, getting me into my suits that I typically wear when I go out and cover some of the bigger events around the league. You can see some of the suits as I posted pictures over @TerminiNBA, @TerminiNBA on Instagram. All right, again, if this is any indication how the rest of the postseason is going to be, we're in for a treat over the course of the next 2.5 months. Not going to do a story at the end of today's show. There was enough basketball, I think, to fill it. We'll do story time here moving forward. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you can catch up with Eddie and myself. Full breakdown, 4 to 7 Eastern time, right here on, or it's not right here on Sirius XM NBA Radio. This is Termini Crashes.